Okay, folks, welcome back to another podcast here with Your Ability. And for anyone who doesn't know, Your Ability is a free platform for all topics such as health, well-being, motivation, business, mindset, everything and anything that you want to talk about. So it's presented by myself, Stephen Smith, and proudly sponsored by TCTS Group Limited. So this podcast is to give people access to organizations, help and support, and to connect business minds and open doors for mass networking. So our guest this evening, guys, is a successful businessman, father, and someone who seems to contribute a hell of a lot back into his community. Shane, good evening.
Stephen, how are you? How's tricks?
All's good, my friend. All's good. You've got home in time for the podcast.
I got home in time, yeah. So you're keeping well anyway, Stephen?
Yes, absolutely. So again, as you know, Shane, you follow us here with Your Ability, and it's all about putting a bit of information out to guys, and hopefully people will take something away from it. We, cover from business owners to mental health to everything. But in my opinion, all of that comes together. It all comes together in one place. So I want to kick off, first of all, Shane, with explain to us what it is you do.
Yeah. In simple terms, Stephen, we're an insurance broker. We have two lines of business. First line is our personal lines section, which is car, home and travel, which is very successful. And the bulk of our business is specialist business insurance placements throughout the island of Ireland. So that's both in the Republic of Ireland and both of the business since starting in 2013. So I suppose in summarise, we do personal lines insurance, car, home and travel, and that's supported by our business insurance placements.
Brilliant. And the services you provide in particular, what would be your specialist services?
Well, I suppose in terms of if we park the car, home and travel side, which that's straightforward enough, in business insurance, it can be very complex. A lot depends on the individual business needs. But I suppose in terms of sectors that we operate in, we've vast experience, and that's how I got to know yourself, in the transport, the haulage and logistics sector, the construction industry, manufacturing industry, a lot of food risks, which we tend to be involved in, steel manufacturing as well, so food and non-food to summarise. The motor trade sector, vast experience north and south. Number one, dealing with SME type businesses that are selling several cars. We have several main dealers and several main dealers for HGV lorries as well. So again, we've vast experience in that motor trade sector. Other sectors is the retail, the hospitality, which is a very large book of business as well. Renewable energy, I suppose that's an area that has become very popular lately. And again, it's just we've been able to tie into that, and we've vast experience in some large placements in that sector as well. In terms of the professional placements, do a lot with accountants, architects, surveyors, and we can place their businesses. Within each of those sectors, there's a variable of covers that are available, from combined liability to motor fleet, professional indemnity to cyber liability to property. And maybe we can talk through maybe a case example later on. So although that's a very wide spectrum, Stephen, that's where we've been very successful, and that's where we've seen the growth in business.
Yeah, that's brilliant, because one of the main issues I had at the start, even when I came to you, and for anybody who doesn't know, Shane is our insurance broker here at TCTS Group Limited. And one of the main reasons we came to you, Shane, as well, is because a lot of companies are, I suppose, one-show ponies maybe. They specialise in their sector, and that's 100%, that's great. However, when you get into the sort of business we're in, and we cover so many areas, we need the right cover, and we need the right understanding from the broker as well, so that all kind of comes hand in hand. With that there, Shane, okay, in your experience especially, what are the most common pitfalls that businesses get caught out on regarding insurance?
Yeah. Look, it depends who you're speaking on that, but from a Wilson Insurance perspective, and us having to deal with clients, the challenges and pitfalls that come, I suppose, there's about 5 or 6 that I can summarise. Look, there could be 10, 15, but just in summary, there's these 5 or 6 that I would say. Probably people not disclosing the full facts to their insurance broker, or holding back material information to their insurance broker. And some people feel, well, I can hold it back, it's actually irrelevant. The broker might go to market, get a quote that's based on certain terms and conditions. There could be a statement of fact built in there that you told the broker no when the answer is yes. And everything's fine until there's a claim. So what I would say is, be open, transparent to your broker. It is a trusted partner. Your insurance broker should be. So be open and transparent. And it's really up to your broker then to make sure that they can source you the cover, knowing the full facts of your business without you holding information back. The most common were probably more an SME business to medium-sized businesses. Larger businesses, not so much. But what I would tend to see, people would tend to focus a lot on price. And price is very important. Look, like any business, you're always looking at your bottom line. But I would always say you need to understand the insurance program or the insurance placement you're asking someone to buy for you. So there's no point you thinking you've got the bells and whistles for everything and you're actually haggling in price, when the reality is there's a claim and the policy won't kick in or won't respond. So what I would advise people in terms of one of the pitfalls is make sure you discuss your business requirements, make sure your broker understands your business, number two, but more importantly, ensure that you're happy with the covers that's there, and then go and negotiate on the actual price. Doing it the wrong way around, the opposite way around, is leaving your number one, you exposed, your business exposed, and potentially putting you out of business. So that's probably the second one. Third one, I would say probably a lack of health and safety and a lack of proper risk management, or an understanding of what the proper health and safety is and the proper risk management is leaving people exposed. We've had clients where we've engaged at the start and, yep, we have that, we have this in place. A claim happens and the paperwork's not there, number one. So again, we'll touch base later on health and safety, Stephen, and proper risk management, but that's an area that I think can be a common pitfall. On property insurance, on commercial property, or even home insurance, all insurance policies have an average clause, which can mean that you can be underinsured. So again, underinsurance can mean that you're leaving yourself exposed. It means that you're filling the gap between the difference in the insurance cover. And again, I'll touch base on that later on. But that is one of the common where there's a property claim. And if you work with any loss adjusters or loss assessors acting on your behalf, they always will say the first thing an underwriter or loss adjuster will look at is making sure that the proper rebuild costs are on the actual property. Proper driver checks on fleet policies, and again, I'll touch base on that later on. People would say, yeah, all my drivers, there's no penalty points, there's no other conditions, there's no actual convictions. And I had a client that had 20 Arctics, and he was trying to say it to me, Shane, there's not one driver with any penalty points, which doesn't sound right. And I suppose it's the knock-on effect of not doing the checks to your business and potentially damaging your business. And again, we'll touch base on that later on. And conditions of carriage under marine transit, making sure that you're incorporating the conditions of carriage in when you're carrying goods from A to B, and being clear to your customer that this is the conditions of the carriage, and are the RHA based on a rate per ton, or are you taking full liability or full responsibility? Those are areas that I've seen are simple, but people overlook it and don't actually get to the bottom of them. So, but again, Stephen, look at maybe later on we can talk on a case study and just maybe touch base on them.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are a lot of businesses we deal with, from the small one man operator to up to a couple of thousand of a fleet. And it seems to be the exact thing that you were saying, Shane, is the things that we find on a regular basis. But one of the big things also with the smaller guy, they might think, well, the less I tell my insurance broker, the cheaper it's going to be. And then you have the guys with the big fleet who presume that you know the changes that have been made. And that could be whether the transportation end or it could be the warehouse logistics end. And I think you made a very valid point there regarding the relationship between the insurance broker and the client.
Yeah. I think, look, touching base on that, I think go back to what you said is, the insurance broker should be a partner. It should be a trusted partner. They're there to protect you and protect your business. So, disclose as much as you can. But likewise, the insurance broker has an obligation to prod in and try to understand. Like, for example, something that could be in a haulage transport sector might be slightly different in a manufacturing, although it's the same type of cover that's being placed. In terms of the risk that needs to be presented to an underwriter, there's actually different elements. But again, that is the onus of the broker, because people are very good at running their businesses. They're not insurance specialists by any means. And the role of the broker is bringing it in that they can explain in English the importance of what's needed and the actual impact of what's needed, but more prod in to the customer as well to get a full understanding of what they're actually doing from a risk management perspective, but even just to keep them compliant on the road as well. So look, you're right, it should be a partnership approach. I suppose that's what you're looking at, Stephen.
Yeah, and I think there's one time you phoned me. You seen us doing something somewhere on social media, and you lifted the phone, you phoned me, and you happened to you brought it up. Can't remember what it was,
Yeah.
but whatever you brought up, I remember we didn't really have ourselves covered right for it.
Yeah.
And without that information, like that's vital information for us that are going out of our way to do it right, and are very, very mindful as actual investigators as well. We're very, very mindful of how the pen is mightier than the sword at some stages with insurance claims and what have you. So another thing too, Shane, when thinking about insurance cover, okay, what are the most important things to consider? Now, I'm talking about, say, from a guy maybe with a fleet of vans, maybe with a fleet of company cars, up until the large operators, or even where we get involved in a lot of businesses who think that they are exempt from all the legislative requirements with transport law because they only run a small van. So give me a couple of ideas here about the important things to consider.
I think if we maybe just understand, I suppose, to take a step back to understand what insurance is, I suppose, and then it'll put into context, I suppose. The reason people purchase insurance is a risk transfer mechanism, okay? So Stephen Smith has a house. Stephen Smith comes to Wilson Insurance to insure the house. If that house goes on fire, that means that an insurance company should be repaying the cost of rebuilding the house. If you don't have insurance, you're actually liable for that yourself. There's other elements of insurance like the Road Traffic Act, like employer's liability, and there's others that are actually compulsory, so you actually do need them. So from a business perspective, the most important things to consider is about, number one, making sure you're compliant with whatever laws are out there. But secondly, making sure that you're protecting your actual business. So if you have a warehouse, making sure the warehouse is actually protected, right? If you have a fleet of vehicles, if you have employees, making sure your liabilities are protected as well. So again, it's number one, understanding what you want to actually keep yourself right. The type of placement depends on the nature of the business. Different businesses require different cover classes, require different advices. But if we go back to what you've touched base, maybe say a transport haulage company. In principle, we have motor fleet, you have employer's liability, public liability, you will have property, you could have stock and trust that you're held on behalf of someone else. You will have your business interruption, your cargo, transit, cyber, directors and officers. So those are a suite of different insurances that potentially you need. So if we dig in just one by one, and I won't spend too much time, Stephen, just looking at each of them. So from a motor fleet perspective, what I would say straight away is, make sure you've conducted a proper review of your drivers. Understand who's driving your vehicles, because your vehicles are your assets, and you want to protect your assets as well. But most policies will be either named driver basis, which means the drivers that are named in the policy are covered, or open driven, depending on the underwriter, from 21 up 25 to 70 or whatever. A lot of those policies will have that the person might need 1 year's driving that vehicle, or 2 years driving that vehicle. They might have to declare anything with 3 penalty points, anything with 6 penalty points. You will have to see if there's any medical conditions, and although medical conditions have to be flagged, it can't be used if your license authority say you're fit to drive. That's okay. But these are things that potentially that as a business you need to check. And people would say to me, well, I can't check them all the time, and that's right. But at least the minimum you should be doing is once every year. I would recommend once every 6 months. It's a very simple driver declaration basis, and at least it protects you, because if you have an individual that's driving your vehicle, and I mentioned earlier on, your vehicle is worth 100,000. It's a 44, 46 ton vehicle. That driver gets 9 penalty points a week after the policy renews and doesn't disclose it to you. It's good to have those checks to place and being able to demonstrate to an underwriter that you're not reckless, that you do have the proper checks in place to check the people that are driving your assets. I suppose the other thing is looking at your inventory. So looking at your fleet of vehicles, be it 2 vehicles, 100 vehicles, looking at them, looking at that the underwriter has the correct engine sizes, the correct gross vehicle weight, has the correct values as well, because sometimes people will go on that they might have an Arctic that could be worth 40 grand if insured in the 30. It is obviously the book value, and there is some elements that can help you. But again, making sure that you're on top, that you have a list of your inventory, that at any stage that you actually can pull that out. And a lot of the larger companies actually do have that, but it doesn't matter if you're 3 vehicle, 5 vehicle, 100 vehicles. Those are things that you probably should have in it. From a fleet perspective, if it's a case you do have a fleet, look at the basis of declaration to the underwriter. Is it immediate? Is it a quarterly or is it an annually? And making sure that your vehicles and the motor insurance database is reflective of the vehicles that are on the road and reflective of the vehicles that aren't on the road. And again, that's just protecting you, that if the vehicles are stopped, there's actually no implications. And it keeps things right, that if you're on a declaration on the vehicle's an accident, that you can clearly demonstrate that it is on the motor insurance database. So those are things around the motor vehicle. And I suppose, look at it, there's so much you can go into, Stephen, but just in summary, you know, those are three or four areas. The combined liability is probably an area that it's not very complex, it's not very complicated, but there's a lot in it, and a lot in it in the sense that, you know, you have legal obligations for your employees, you have legal obligations for members of the public, and you've probably contractual obligations to your customers as well. So under the combined liability, there's several things. First of all, something that you've done very well, Stephen, and you stressed importance to a lot of your customers, is the importance of health and safety. And, you know, people would say to me, I've only 2 employees, I don't need health and safety. That's wrong. You know, it doesn't matter if you employ 2 employees or 100 employees. Okay, if you are under 5 employees, you don't have to have a written health and safety policy, but you need to demonstrate your commitment to managing proper health and safety at the workplace. Anything above 5 employees will either engage with health and safety consultants, will have their own health and safety person. So look, there's areas around that you do need to be mindful of. There's, in business as well, there's general things like, you know, making sure your plant's maintained, serviced. You have inspections on, say, your lifting equipment, inspections on your forklifts, inspections on your compressors. And those are things that are legal obligations. They're not that the insurance broker saying you need to do it just to keep things right. Those are legal obligations, and there is a knock-on effect if there's an accident and you can't demonstrate it, that they actually have been tested. Demonstrated all employees are trained, it's documented, it's kept on file. PPE, I know me and you've had several discussions around this. You know, people operating forklifts don't have the proper PPE. Drivers on the road not wearing proper PPE, and these things are all fine until there's an accident. And it comes back to you as the employer to be able to demonstrate that, number one, you've shown that employee the importance of PPE. Number two, that the employee has signed for receipt of the PPE. And then obviously if an employee isn't using that, obviously you need to take that through a process to discuss it with an employee. Secondly, I suppose outside of health and safety, and it probably is a form of health and safety where, you know, I've had several discussions with clients saying, well, my drivers are only in the back of the curtain cider. Sure, I don't need working at heights. Mm-hmm. You know, that is, you know, to me, you know, anyone that says that obviously has been guided right by their actual broker. Just reading a quote here, Stephen, work at height means work in any place where if precautions are not taken, a person could fall a distance likely to cause personal injury. And that's on the HSE website. And look at the Work at Heights Regulation 2005 and Northern Ireland 2005. That's very clear obligations that's there. Now, I know within the haulage sector, the HSE would say on average, there's about 2,000 accidents a year where people are falling from vehicles. Now, you might only be falling from a back of a curtain cider or refrigerated unit, but if you fall and get a knock on your head, that could have serious impacts. And you as an employer are dealing with a family that has someone that's seriously injured, someone that probably, okay, they might have just broken an arm, but you're actually dealing with the impact of that. And then you have to speak potentially to the HSE about what measures you took to ensure that person was safeguarded at the back of that lorry. And even your insurance company might come and say, well, look, can you demonstrate to us the training that you've shown that driver, be it the driver's with you 5 years, 10 years, you have to be able to demonstrate it. And one of the key points around the work at height regulation, Stephen, is a person cannot work at height unless they're deemed competent to do so. And competent is a minimum that you've received appropriate training. And I know that's very, very wide. And people think working heights is people that's on a ladder, people that's up maybe 10 meters high, you know, and it is, you know, for a lot of underwriters that we would deal with on haulage type liability, they all are coming now about working at heights and highlighting potentially where they have been exposed and potentially where they have seen claims come. And in one case, an underwriter saying that a difficult discussion had to happen with an employee that was severely, you know, injured. So there's things around that, I suppose, that making sure that people are competent. I suppose working at height needs to be properly planned. And you might say, well, what do you mean by that? And properly plans mean that you as an employer have responsibility to do proper risk assessments. So you need to look at each employee and understand what that employee is doing, what they're paid to do, and what they believe they're doing. And risk assessments isn't a generic risk assessment, because the risk assessment of working on the back of a curtain cider, versus the risk assessment that's working on the back of a refrigerated trailer with a tail lift. They're actually two different ones. So, and again, that's something that employers need to look at when they're looking at working at heights. And again, suitable working equipment. People used to see people jumping out of the back of lorries or getting up at the strap and getting at it. You have an obligation to make sure that there's suitable working equipment. That there may be that there's proper leather, there's handrails, that someone shouldn't have to climb up in the back of an actual vehicle. And I've seen a claim where someone has fallen at the back, and my client has lifted the phone and said, Shane, look, he shouldn't have been doing what he was doing. And to an extent, he's probably right. But he couldn't demonstrate a few points. And there's 3 or 4 things where I've seen claims paid out. And then it frustrates the policyholder, but the policyholder can't demonstrate they've done certain areas. So number one, there's no evidence that work has been planned. So there's no risk assessment for the person doing the job at the back of the vehicle. Number 2, the equipment provided by the employer, be it safety rails, work platforms and ladders, they're either non-existent or not suitable for the purpose of their job. There's been no training provided, or the training that has been provided isn't adequate, or it's not documented properly, which again, documentation is so important when you're trying to demonstrate that that employee has been trained. And when you're sitting down with the HSE, when someone has been severely injured and you're getting grilled, you need to be able to demonstrate that you have been very proactive and not actually careless. And again, either a risk assessment hasn't been undertaken, or a generic risk assessment has been undertaken. And those 4 things, when someone has fallen off the back of a trailer, are all key in an insurance company, number 1, being able to defend the claim, or number 2, you being disappointed that a claim's been paid out. So, and I know, look, in the world of litigation, which is very wide, Stephen, what I would always recommend is someone, look, you have to protect yourself, you have to protect your business, and you have to protect your staff. So those are things, Stephen, from health and safety and risk management. The other thing around, I suppose, haulage companies or transport companies is marine insurance and transit insurance. And, the importance of being able to demonstrate the conditions of carriage that you're incorporating. And what I mean by that is, Stephen, you're taking a bit of plant from A to B on my extra behalf. You being able to demonstrate, Shane, I'm carrying that plant, but it's under the Road Haulage Association and it's a rate of 1,300 a tonne. Okay? If you can't demonstrate that, and that bit of plant is worth 15 grand, or the goods that's being carried is worth 15 grand, and it's only 1 tonne weight, well, you potentially could be liable for the full liability or the full responsibility of the 15 grand. Now, I suppose people might say, well, there's what insurance is for, but the insurance policy is writing it at the Road Haulage Association of 1,300 a tonne. That's the way the insurance company believes the cover is. You don't have full responsibility cover unless it has been requested. A lot of, under the conditions of carriage, there's several different types. But in this specific example, Stephen, some insurers might say you have to demonstrate that you have incorporated these conditions. Some policies say, look, we'll just demonstrate to us that you got it. So what I would always say to people is, regardless what you're doing in business, if you're a haulage contractor, make sure in your emails that you clearly incorporate your conditions of carriage, that we haul under RHA conditions of carriage, or you haul under full responsibility, full liability. So make those very clear as to what it is. Make sure your website's reflective of it. Make sure your invoices that goes out when the job's done, or even your quotes that are going out are actually reflective. And again, it's actually protecting you. It's fine if your insurance policy does have the full responsibility up to whatever limits needed. It's fine if you have the full suite of conditions of carriage, RHA, IRHA, the different conditions are there. But if you only have RHA and you're carrying goods that's worth more, you actually going to get caught fine, because the person that you're carrying them for will clearly be able to demonstrate that you have not incorporated the proper conditions of carriage. Property insurance, for haulage companies where would have large warehouses, they would have maybe stock that they're holding in trust for the customers. The importance there is making sure you're following the terms and conditions of the policy. So most of them, standard ones, will say that the electrical certs are being maintained, or the electrics are checked every 3 to 5 years by a company electrician. That some, depending on the values, making sure that there's a fire alarm and intruder alarm linked to central monitoring station. But the most important thing, and I touched base earlier on, is making sure the buildings are adequate for rebuild. And what I would strongly recommend, once every 3 years, get a professional in to give you a rebuild valuation, because the last thing you want is if the rebill is 2 million and you're only insured for 1 million, you're 50% underinsured, you're only going to get 50% of your million. That means that insurance company pay you out 500,000, you're stuck in the hop for 1.5 million to rebuild it. So again, something simple that won't cost a lot to get the sums insured right, but if it's something you don't get a second opinion on, can have a detrimental effect on someone's business. And then you have the suite of other covers, Stephen, like cyber liability insurance, which is becoming very popular. Cyber liability insurance, people thought, look, at a small operation, they don't need it, or the big operation, only target small operation, vice versa. It's critical to protect yourself. Every business now has clients' data. There's probably accounts information there. Someone hacks your system, takes your details, takes the client's details. You need the protection around that to protect your liabilities and protect your hardware if anything happens as well. Another thing, Stephen, like directors and officers, legal expenses, maybe personal accidents. So there's a full suite of things that's there. But I suppose, looking, and again, that's a very high level snobness. You could dig into that in very detail, but there's so much in there, and that's why people should invest the time with their insurance broker to understand the insurance that they have, but also arrange a quarterly review. But the quarterly review might only be a conference call. It could be a half-an-hour meeting. But again, the broker sitting down with you, understand, well, has there been any changes in your business? Have you bought any plant? Have you done any extensions? Is there anything that's changed in that? Look, let's go through the conditions of the policy. So the conditions of the policy says that the electrics need to be checked every 5 years. You told me it was done. Has it been done? So again, look, it's not a 2-hour meeting, but it's well spent that at least if you need your insurance policy to react, the insurance policy will actually react, but you've met the terms and conditions of the policy. So those, Stephen, are some of the key things around someone like in the transport sector.
But Shane, that's absolute gold what you're after saying there, and that's why I didn't interrupt in any way, because, and I hope the people that's watching this, especially a lot of guys we deal with, they hear me banging on about this all the time. They hear our health and safety officers banging on about this all the time. So we have now an insurance broker on this evening's podcast, folks, highlighting and reiterating what we bang on about all the time. And I think a perfect example of that, I remember a couple of years ago, you on to me about cyber insurance, okay? And I said, whatever, get it sorted, do what we have to do. And then a couple of years later, for one of our tenders that we went for, a part of the tender process was, do you have, that type of insurance? Yeah. So again, you have to get your advice from professional people. You can't, and this is what I said at the start, folks, about the difference in a one-stop shop and somebody who only is a one-show pony. And you can all hear the knowledge and experience that Shane has here, and he's given it out here in the podcast this evening for us, which we're very grateful of. Another thing I want to just highlight in that when you're talking about from an employer point of view, and it all sounds very heavy on the employer. If you are a driver and the company has a declaration in place, okay, to claim, any penalty points and show your license and all. If a driver refuses to show their license, or if a driver say, has been maybe a heart condition or something, and they keep it quiet to themselves, and something happens. Now, the company is going to be covered as best they can because they've put the control measures in place. So what I want to get across to drivers is, you're shooting yourself in the foot by not claiming this. Would you agree with me or not agree?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Look, the employer can take actions, and the actions is that they will do the checks. They will insist on a copy of your license, and any driver that's not willing to do it, to me, look, that's a separate issue that you looked at in the company. There's a reason why that needs to be done. But I suppose, if a driver doesn't disclose a medical condition and says no on it, and there's an accident, and as a result, there's an ongoing medical condition, well, the employer has done as much as they can because the driver has signed a document saying that they haven't got it. But technically, it's a fraudulent document that they're signing because it's really non-disclosure. From that perspective, I think the insurance company would be very difficult for them to walk away from the claim if it's a Road Traffic Act claim. And I do believe they would have to deal with the damage to the vehicle because of the actions that the employer has taken. I think the other side of that is the employer obviously would take a course of action against the employee. And if the employer is out of pocket by any means, the employer could say, well, look, we're out of X, we are going for recourse against you. So, but again, look, people could lose their job over it. And, I've seen guys having 9 penalty points, and one guy says, Shane, we're not going to get this guy insured. And the underwriter was happy enough. So I think the whole idea, again, going back to disclosing it to your broker, it's up to your broker to understand it and say, well, look, as a result of this, it's a one-off, or there's a constant use of mobile phones, which is probably more concerning for an underwriter than penalty points, because when you're using a mobile phone on the hands, it means you're not focusing on driving. So, but no, that's the role of the broker, to be able to have the discussion with the underwriter and for him to make sure that your business is best presented to reflect what it is. So there's no point going and saying this guy is 9 penalty points. It is what it is. The broker needs to understand, well, what exactly are the 9 penalty points for? And maybe if it means the broker having a chat to the driver, so be it, to understand. And to be fair, most people with 9 penalty points, they probably are very more cautious, in terms of what's been done. Some people are unfortunate. You get 9, it could be 6 points for something in 3, but it goes back to open and honest and disclosing. And I think if people can do that, it protects everybody, and it means the employee's not exposed, the business is not exposed, and the insurance company and the insurance broker is not having a difficult discussion saying the policy is not responding. So again, look, it's open and transparency, but keep the employee right. I think they're better off disclosing everything. And again, a lot of the driver declarations, the companies have themselves protected, that at the bottom there will say that the company is working off the basis of information advised. You as an employee have an obligation to advise if at any stage this information is not correct. And that puts the onus back on the employee, Stephen.
Brilliant. Because we go into a lot of companies and we specialise in putting in a lot of risk management control measures. And I have this argument with companies, and I have more arguments with insurance brokers and insurance companies. It's unreal, because they're not telling their client this information. Do you know what I mean? They're not highlighting it to them. They're renewing it. There's a renewal date. And the question hasn't been asked. And I was with a very large client about maybe 6-7 weeks ago, and we were dealing about risk management. And I brought up issues, and they changed their insurance broker, and they went for this new company. And nobody had asked any of the questions that you're after talking about, Jane. And we had went through a pile of this stuff. And it really made me go back to the managing director of that company, sit him down and ask him about his insurance broker. And also, find this information out. What do they want? What control measures do they want in place? You give a great example there of getting up and out of a trailer. And when we go out and examine vehicles, we've had just silly things like maybe refrigerated trailers, which have a set of pull-out steps at the back door. And the pull-out steps are seized solid. So they've been missed on the maintenance end of things. But the guys in the garage, because it's not a testable item, they think they don't have to check it and, free it up and maintain it. But, there's two different things, when you're construction use regulations, road traffic act, road traffic order, and then health and safety legislation. So it's the education and the information you're putting out there is vital for these guys.
Yeah, and you're right. Look, I suppose that's where your experience comes in, Stephen, and that's where an insurance broker's experience comes in, because to be fair, it is a minefield out there with health and safety and risk management, but I think it's about engaging with professionals that understand it and making sure that those professionals are protecting you as a business and protecting you as an individual as well. Because as a director of a company, you could become legally liable if you are grossly negligent. And if someone is seriously injured, the HSE comes on site and someone is unfortunately has passed away because of an accident, and you can't demonstrate certain actions. Well, you could go down for corporate manslaughter, and that's, I know that's the complete extreme on it, but in life you just want to make sure that you're protecting yourself and you're protecting your business importantly, but more importantly, you're making sure that your employees are working in a safe working environment.
Absolutely, yeah. And tell me, just on that, to stay on this subject a wee second, and we get to the end about contact and how to contact you, yeah. But if for example someone's watching this, and we have a very large following throughout our social media platforms. If somebody's watching this at the moment, what is the best way for them to get in contact with you directly, or your guys directly, or even go back to their insurance broker and ask these questions? Are they? Would you recommend that they question their insurance broker, or if they want to contact you for consultation, is that something that you can offer?
Look, we're always happy to talk to anyone. If people want a second opinion, if people want someone to take a look at their policy midterm, by all means, we're happy to do it. To do that. However, I would strongly recommend have the discussion with your broker. That's you have placed your business through your broker. So it's the broker's responsibility to make sure that you're protected, that you understand the terms and conditions of the policy, and that the broker is ensuring that the proper risk management, health and safety, method statements, whatever you need to put in place is put in place. Some brokers can't do it internally, but they've got contacts that they can introduce you to. We have the ability with some of our partners to do that. For example, Stephen. And, I think it's important that have the discussion with your broker. If you're not happy, by all means, we're actually more than happy to have a discussion with you at Wilson Insurance. Feel free to ring the office. Feel free to ring me directly. Either way, Stephen.
I know. I obviously we have recommended you to numerous companies, and a lot of the time, the first thing to say is, well, what's this going to cost me? And then, a chat, a consultation, a look through something costs very little to nothing. You know what I mean?
And Stephen, the other thing just there on it, in as an insurance broker, there's times I'd go out to a client, and in one example, a guy that you had asked me to meet, a gentleman and a lady, and I actually went and met them, and to be honest, the broker had done an excellent job. Broker had done a brilliant job, and I said, look, that's there's no issue. I can't add any value to what's being done. So a lot of brokers out there do very good jobs, but what I would say, the point I'm saying is, make sure that you understand your policy and make sure that you fully understand the implications of not having the proper health and safety in place. So that's where we're on that.
And again, with one of the things you brought up was about the review, and you and I do these reviews, and to be totally honest, it's usually you that contacts me about the review, because we're trying to run a business. We don't have time for this, and it's the same as us when we do the compliance end for companies. They're running the business, they don't have the time for the compliance and health and safety. But the review is a very, very important thing, because I know even from vehicles, from staff, from areas that way. I remember me and you having a review one time, and you brought up about a senior over in Portugal working, or a senior in Belgium or over in Berlin working. Yeah. And it was, and my attitude was, why, what's your problem? That should be a good thing. But you highlighted stuff that we didn't know. And this is the whole thing of anything in life. If you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah, I think, Stephen, that it goes back to what you said. You should engage, if not a quarterly review, at least a 6-monthly review with your insurance broker, because people running businesses focus on their business. They take the eye off insurance, and look, not being paid out or large claim being paid at a minimal cost to changing your policy.
Absolutely. Okay, well, listen, let's just move on into another wee sector here, but something that I'm very, very interested in with a lot of guys that we speak to, But first of all, what made you start your own business?
I suppose I'd done a graduate program. Well, I'll take it back a step. I was in University of Ulster Jordanstown doing a degree. Part of that degree was a year's placement. I was fortunate to be accepted in the Quinn Group for a year's placement, which I did at their head office in Derrylin. And following that, I was offered a graduate program in their manufacturing arm, insurance or hospitality. So I took the insurance graduate program. And within that, I suppose, I was very fortunate in the insurance program to work with some great people, met some great friends, but spent a lot of time in cross-divisional areas. So spending times in personal lines, understanding from a sales perspective, from an underwriting perspective, spending time in claims, seeing claims coming in from start to be processed, projects, IT, I suppose. But finally, where I finished off was commercial, and I held senior positions across the company. But most senior I did hold was in the commercial division. Spent a lot of time in London, Manchester, Enniskillen. Spent time down the west of Ireland, down further on down the south into Munster. So I was very fortunate in that, working with some great individuals. Ultimately, what I was doing in there was working from an underwriting perspective, looking at how risks was being rated, and managing relationships with brokers. So, meeting brokers to meet targets and to work with them brokers to give the brokers solutions to help them grow their business. And I was out with a broker one day, Stephen. I'll never forget, out in Galway, we secured a large 6-figure premium. And I was driving back up the road, and I said, look, I can do this. And that was the start of why I wanted to go out on my own. And from that, it started a journey to where things are today, Stephen. So in summary, that's where it started.
Brilliant. So how long are you in business now yourself on your own?
Business 2013, June 2013, Stephen.
June 2013. So how tough or how easy has it been for you?
I suppose starting a business from scratch, because the business did start from scratch. I was fortunate having a lot of contacts in my previous roles. But I would say starting a business from scratch it's challenging, and at times will make you question your decision to start the business, and that's fact. However, from my own perspective, the pleasure of working with businesses to make sure that they have the proper insurance program, seeing a claim being paid out with no issues, it means that that business can trade, and that business has but trust in me to be their insurance partner. I suppose the most pleasure that I've got in the last few years is people that looked at Wilson Insurance when it set off trading and said, look, the broker's too small for me, not knowing the wealth of knowledge we had, not on the markets that we've had in our connection with Dixon Company in Omagh, who's probably one of the largest independent-owned brokers in Northern Ireland. Give us access to markets that people didn't have. And I suppose, seeing clients that now are on our book that wouldn't have looked at us the first, second year, and commenting saying that, look, we're comfortable with Wilson Insurance, we're happy enough that they're a trusted partner. That gives more satisfaction because it does show the progress that the business has made. I suppose, and you're aware of this, but you've been at one or two of the meetings. I'm involved in a business network in Cavan called BNI Breffni, and there's some great guys in there, and it's a global network, but in Ireland there's several chapters. And this week there was a guy, Pádraig Cahill, who's a member, and Pádraig he was speaking around the challenges in business. And
you still there?
Yeah, Stephen, I don't. You're right. Sorry, not sure what happened there, buddy.
You're okay.
Pádraig was on about the challenges in business, and Pádraig started out one-man show. He's now got 3-4 guys working from. Very good at what he does. Very good motivational person that speaks positive and talks about the challenges. But this week he quoted, and it was just, it's weird that I'm speaking to you today and Wednesday morning he had come up with these two things, but he quoted 2 quotes that he says people in business will find these very reflective of the challenges that are in business. And one was from David Weber, where he said, the more you learn, the more you earn. And he was saying, you have to invest in yourself. So by that, what he was saying was, look, at the more knowledge you have, be it that you have to educate yourself, that you're out understanding your business, that you're working hands-on in your business, the better you will be, the better that you will be at business. And the second was from Albert Einstein, and you might think, Shane, what am I quoting these for? But it was factual from Pádraig on Wednesday. And Albert Einstein said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And when you are starting out in business, you do sometimes do the same thing, and you're not getting the results that you need. And that's where you need to take a step back and look at it to see what actually needs to be done, needs to be done differently on it. So look at starting out in business. Look, people will say it's tough. It is tough. Is it doable? Yes. But there's loads of factors that you need to be a success in it, and there's several that we can talk. Maybe later on we can touch base on one or two of them as well.
Good man, absolutely. I was listening to a vlog or a podcast with Conor McGregor and Tony Robbins, and we know that Conor McGregor now is Tony Robbins in his corner as such.
Yeah.
But one of the big things that Conor brought up, for years and years, he was all about the bling and all about the jewellery and the clothes and the cars and the boats and all that. And what he didn't realise was that there was famous, basketball players in America that were spending over £1 million a year on self-development. And he was shaking his head thinking, what the hell's going on here? I'm flat out buying cars and boats and ships and cruisers. Yeah. And now he's starting to invest in himself, and I think that's something that a lot of people that know me, a lot of people that listen to me rant on, I'm always on about that, because without self-development, you can't grow at any stage. And you'll probably agree with this too, Shane, and a lot of the guys that watch this, run the business is a very, very lonely place. You know what I mean? Like you have nobody to look up for any help at that stage. So you're kind of, it's a lonely place. Would you agree with that? Or
yeah. Without a doubt, in business, it's fine when you've a strong network, and larger businesses have that. But when you're starting out, it tends to be yourself and someone else, or yourself. And that's where that's what I would say is if you look at even advice for someone starting business, we'll say, Stephen, looking at it, and it's a question that I would have several people ring and saying, Shane, look at your business seems to be going well. I'm thinking of doing something. Can I ask you what advice would you actually give me? And the easiest thing for me to say is to discuss have a business plan and have a strategy, or the importance of executing the plan and staying on course in that plan. And those are all textbook things. And yes, that's what people do. And you have a goal, and you know actually where you want to be in that goal. You know, but I would say the greatest lesson, Stephen, that I've learned from being in business, and again, this is just my own experience, is you have to be willing to fail to succeed. So you have to be willing to fail to succeed. And, you know, that is factual. And, you know, we can touch base on mindsets and that later on. But, you know, some people think when you fail at the first hurdle, it's gone. You know, it's not. Look at that as an opportunity and learn from each time you fail and actually move on. 50% of small businesses fail due to many reasons, Stephen. Looking at lack of experience, there is insufficient capital, there is competition, unexpected growth, sales aren't as high as what they are. You know, and you know, if you read those out to a person thinking of starting a business, think, oh God, that's too much. But you know, to me, look at them as opportunities. So if you go through them again, let's say a lack of experience, skill yourself up. You know, learn to earn. You know, that's what you need to do. You know, you don't have to have all the degrees in the world, but go and get hands on. You know, get involved in the business, get to understand every stage of the business, and get experience for it. If the capital is not there, look, go to someone, try to work with. There's loads of support from Invest NI. There's loads of support through Fermanagh District Council. Again, I'm only discussing Fermanagh. It's out through all councils. There's loads of support there where people can work with you on a business plan. Get your proper business plan and go to a provider that might give you some funds in the back of the plan. So at least that will help you get over the force order. Looking at competition or such a large broker. To me, I looked at that. Well, where I want to be. You know, it's not a hurdle for me competing against them. I want to be able to demonstrate to my clients that we can do as good a job, if not better, than some of our competition. Mm-hmm. And you know, unexpected growth. And people would say, "Yeah, great, I've got a massive, large contract." And unexpected growth is fine if you're structured to deal with the growth. I've several friends that have growth, and as a result of the growth being outside of what they can actually handle, it means, Stephen, that they take the eye of something else, you know, and the business maybe actually fails. And finally, you know, several people say to me, "Shane, sales haven't been good this quarter." And I'd always say, "Look, guys, be positive. You know, it's only a quarter. It's different if your sales were low quarter on quarter or year on year. But if your sales are low in the quarter, look at the sales that you were working on. Ask yourself, why didn't you pick them sales up? And be your worst critic that you can get. And when you're dealing with the next thing, maybe make sure things like that don't happen." So again, you know, Stephen, those are things that from your own experience, you know, that, you know, failure doesn't mean you need to stop business. Failure is an opportunity. And each of those things we talked about, look at failure as opportunities. And opportunities, if you deal with opportunities and program your mindset to be in that right frame, it actually can help. So I suppose the three main tips, what I would give someone that's maybe in business or thinking of starting a business, and look at, there's lots of successful people out there that may say, "Shane, that doesn't make sense." But from my own perspective, again, I'm coming from your own perspective, is don't let failure be a deterrent. You know, even the best planned, the best intentions sometimes just don't work. You know, and most will face the challenges that's there. You know, but it's not the fact that something has happened. It's what you do in response to that separates failure versus success. You know, so something might go against you that you think, "God, no, that's a complete failure." If you keep your head down, it actually will be a failure. But you know, maybe think about something, deal with that in a different way, and that can be the difference in your business getting over the next line, or actually not. Have a plan. You know, it is important. Although I said, you know, over there, the textbook is have a plan. You know, you should set yourself goals. You should set yourself targets. In your goals, try to understand how you want to get to where you want to be. Set yourself targets. Review them targets on a weekly basis, a quarterly basis. If you're exceeding targets, understand why, which is good. But more importantly, if you're not hitting targets, understand again why. And sometimes those factors are outside your control. You know, but you know, it is important that there's a plan to get back. And if there is a plan there, if you go off track, you can bounce back on track very, very quickly. And use the resources that's available to you. And you touched based on it earlier on, Stephen. You know, you're watching a business that you've worked so hard to build, and maybe it's gone through a bad period. It can be a lonely feeling. You know, feeling. You know, but you know, no one will understand it better than you. What you're dealing with, what the conceptions are there. you know, and what I would strongly say, have trusted advisors, not people you have to pay for. That's not what it is. I've been very fortunate to have a great family and have a great support network group. And there's 1 or 2, 3 individuals that I know I can lift the phone to. I know that I can have a discussion with them. And sometimes when you get a setback, you know, a quick phone call with someone can put you back on the right track. And anyone that I've known that's been successful in business will always quote that, you know, you do need the actual resources that's there. So again, Stephen, you know, don't let failure be a deterrent. Have a plan. You know, there is loads of support out there, financial support. You get business plans in place, and, you know, use the resources that are available to you. And it's not all about paying for the resources, but, you know, use people that you know that you can trust, that are there for you, and likewise that you're there for them as well.
So from your start in the business and from you where you are now in your business, how important is mindset? You know, and I suppose not just in business, in life especially, but how has your mindset changed from you started the business to where you are now? Or has it changed?
Yeah, well, there's 2 things. I think mindset is important from a personal perspective, but also in business, you know, without a doubt, Stephen. And, you know, although I've been in business since 2013, I've been fortunate to hold senior positions in a very large insurance company. And, you know, what I would say, Stephen, is, you know, mindset, being in business or working for someone and you're under pressure, you know, it can be difficult and it can be challenging sometimes, okay? So always look at setbacks as opportunities. And what I mean by that there is, if you do get a setback in life outside of business or even personally, you know, look at reprogramming your mindset. So, you know, there's things that you have no control over and can't change. That's fact. But if you let that eat into you, you know, you're never going to move on. So always try to reprogram your mind that you need to move on to the next task. What's happened has happened. You can't change it. Move on and try to be better at actually the next stage. And, you know, one thing that I've learned in business in terms of mindset as well, you know, be a leader and not a follower. You know, you lead, don't follow people because you want to be that person. That's the worst thing you can do. Be a leader and not a follower. And worry about your character and not your reputation. And what I mean by that, Stephen, is your character is who you are and your reputation is what people think of you. So if you want to be a leader in business and you want to get to a certain point, you go and do it the way that you believe it should be done. Don't be doing it the way people are doing it because you think that's the right thing. You know, that is the wrong thing. And, you know, in terms of your character, it's you that people are buying. You know, people aren't buying because, you know, your reputation's out there. Yeah, he's a great individual, but it's people are buying of you because of your character and they trust you. So again, I've seen businesses, they're all reputation, and I'm doing it because they're doing it. That's wrong. Be a leader, not a follower, and focus on your character and not your reputation is points that I would say around mindset.
I like that. Now when you distinguish the 2 of them that way. Well, then that rolls in, I suppose, to my next question, and we're nearly at 55 minutes here, Shane.
Yeah, go ahead.
But the next thing that, in my opinion, that always rolls into asking the question of, in your opinion as well, how important is mental health to you? Now, you know, as a man, mental health.
Yeah.
We've had this conversation with the likes. We've had Niall Green on the show a couple of times, and we'll be getting him back as well. And, you know, I've had other guys I speak to, and, you know, from a male perspective, especially, we're starting a wee bit to come out and talk about it more, but we're still a way behind, you know. So
I think, look, to me, it's very important. I think what's out there, Stephen, the point that you raised, everyone has mental health issues, and that's fact. And you might think, Shane, that doesn't make sense, but everyone does. The difference, what I feel, is some people can handle it better than others. And I think, you know, that's to me is the main that if people can reprogram their mind in terms of what I talked about earlier on, and some people unfortunately can't, and they get into the rut, go into depression, they go into loneliness. You know, but I do believe that there is more openness out there. Social media has been a positive impact, but likewise, social media can have a negative impact in terms of peer pressure and other things as well. I think men are a bit slower on coming out. You know, it's nothing to be ashamed about. You know, I've people that I would lift the phone to and say, "You out for a cup of tea? You out for coffee?" Guys would ring me and say, "Shane, can I chat to you?" You know, and to me, look at it. It's you're better off as Rory O'Connor from Rory Stories says, it's okay to not be okay, you know. And it's people like that can promote mental health, I think, is actually good. But, you know, there's nothing to be ashamed about. That if you feel, that's nothing to be shameful about. You actually should talk to someone. And there was a lady it was the Crystal Award she was raising mental health awareness. She's an Indian actress. I was reading it there on Sunday on one of the online blogs, and she had severe mental health issues. Was nearly losing the people around her. She was nearly leaving people around her in terms of her actions, and she was accepting the award. And she actually made this quote, and I'll just read the quote out because I think the quote, Stephen, does but mental health in terms of what it is. And when she was getting the award, this is what she said, and I'll just read it here. In the time it has taken me to speak, the world has lost someone to suicide. That person may have been a father, a mother, a son or daughter, a brother or sister, a friend, a family member or a colleague. Every 40 seconds, one person dies by suicide somewhere in the world. $1 trillion is the estimated impact caused by anxiety, depression in the global economy. And mental illness presents us all with tough challenges. Though you need to be patient, remember you're not alone, but more importantly, there is hope. And, you know, that's where she then went on to say about Martin Luther King said, everything done in this world is done by hope. And, you know, I think, you know, to be fair, reading it, I think it's a great reflection of the challenges in the world in mental health. But one thing, and, you know, I know time just it might be on a side stream, but one thing probably to conclude around it, you know, I would always say, and I had this discussion with a friend that was in a low place once and met him, and, you know, we actually had a chat, and I said, look, you are where you are, you can't change it. And, you know, I said, always remember your present circumstances, this is fact, don't determine where you can go. They merely determine where you start, where you need to go to. So look at, you know, mental health is, you know, it's trying to reprogram yourself, but be around positive people. You know, there's people out there that they'll pull the positivity out of anyone, you know, they'll go on about it, you know, and those are people you don't need in your life. You need positive, and in business you need people that's positive as well, you know. And, you know, I think it goes back to what Rory Stories has said, you know, it's okay to not be okay. And, you know, I think it's something that people shouldn't be afraid to discuss openly, is my view on it, Stephen.
Good man, Shane, because it's something that, you know, everybody agrees on and everybody says it out loud. Especially from a business point of view. Now, this is for anything, don't get me wrong, but the whole point of view or ability is that it's a free platform to talk about all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, someone who might be sitting at home thinking about starting a business, you've given some brilliant answers to them. Somebody who's sitting there thinking, oh, well, business is going to be so easy, I might as well just go and do it. But when we talk about mental health, and you were talking about, you know, chatting to people, one of my other questions for you was, do you believe that everybody in business and even indeed in life should have a mentor?
I would say yes, because in life, be it from a personal perspective or even from the business perspective, dealing with difficult situations can be challenging, can be lonely, and can be very difficult sometimes. You know, and, you know, I think a mentor, and like the definition of a mentor doesn't have to be someone that you're engaging 24/7 with. You know, it can be a close friend, it can be a family member, but someone that you can lift the phone to. And sometimes you're lifting the phone to somebody, you know, you're telling them nothing more than they're going to tell you back, but you need a sounding board. And the mentor can be the sounding board, someone that can listen to you. But in business, you know, someone like that can be an individual that can get you prospects, an individual that can bring business to the table. But by doing that, they're helping you grow your business. But likewise, you're obviously doing something back for that person as well. So look, I think, you know, yes, it's very important, Stephen, is in my view, regardless if it's personal or in business. But again, the mentor to me is not the person where, you know, you need to be, you know, someone that you're going out getting it. Obviously, it depends on the seriousness of the issue. Some people do need that. Yeah. But, you know, your friend can be a mentor, your parents can be a mentor, your brothers and sisters can be a mentor, your partner can be a mentor, your work colleagues can be a mentor, your employees can be mentors sometimes, and sometimes you're having a chat and you're thinking, oh, they've raised the point of valid, you know, so I think that it is important. But unfortunately in life, every individual deals with stuff differently, deals with challenges differently, and I think, you know, to be able to get people in a better frame of mind, it's always good to talk to somebody.
Absolutely, yes, I can't agree with you more on that, Shane, and some brilliant answers, and fair play to you. Thanks very much for coming on. One thing that just the last question I wanted to finish up, and we're a bit over time, but listen, it's good stuff. I'm enjoying it anyway. So if anybody's watching this is enjoying it, and rewind it back, folks, and go into that insurance that Shane went, I'm going to say in depth with, but it was only scraping the top of it, Shane. You know what I mean? There's so much stuff after that. But last question I want to ask you was, if you had to start all over again, okay, what would you change?
To be honest, I would say, Stephen, nothing. And you might find that doesn't make sense. But from my own perspective, from starting out in business or starting out in life, you can't change the past. The past is the past. But you can learn from failures, you can learn from challenges in the actual past. So what I would say, the experience that I've had in life personally have made me a stronger person. The experience I've had in business, the connections, the people I've met along the journey in business have helped me grow the business to where I am today, without a doubt. But I would say from starting the business in 2013 to where I am now, I would say the following 3 points I would say it would be probably more reflective of dealing with difficult situations along the journey. And, I would say, first of all, know how to reprogram your mind. And we've talked about that, being in a dark mindset, in a low place, try to reprogram your mind, think of something positive, and that'll help you deal with difficult situations, which in turn will help you lead to secure success in your business. People want to deal with positive people, but not everyone can be positive. But, there's ways of reprogramming your mind to get you to where you need to be. The other thing I would say is never regret a day in your life, a day in business. And, I've learned a good quote, it was a good friend of mine that said this to me at the start, and I remember him saying, Shane, good days will give happiness, and those days will actually be good. Bad days will give experience. And we were saying to me, Shane, in those bad days, it makes you a better person as to how to deal with situations. Worst days will give you lessons. So you need to know how to react and know how to deal with it to not let those days happen again. And the best days will give you memories. So the best days in business, you'll sit back and think, that's why I've done what I've done. That's why, I have the pleasure of working with individuals, the pleasure of seeing the business grow, the pleasure of even having discussions with staff. So those will give you memories as to where your business wants to be. And whenever you find yourself, and finally, whenever you find yourself doubting how far you can go, always remember how far you've come, in business, because we all start at ground zero, and people are fortunate to go on and grow. But, remember everything that you faced in business, all the battles that you've won, and all the fears you've overcome, and all the challenges, and all the negative views that is attached to that. It's always important to remember all things, and more importantly, remember where you are today. The past is the past. You can't change the past, but always try to deal with failures as opportunities to get to where you need to be in life. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Well, your ability, as I said, it's all about covering everything from well-being to motivation to business to mindset, and I think you've ticked every one of them the night, Shane, and very, very enjoyable having you on board, my friend. Thank you very much. Listen, on that note, folks, where we're going to finish up here, because we are over time, but it is what it is. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and the information that Shane's even put in from a business perspective, from a life perspective, in these times that we're in with COVID, and people, the pressure is starting to get on top of people, the cabin fever, and especially for small businesses that have started up and they're not going well, they don't know if they're going to open again. It's great to have someone like Shane coming on and talking such a positive mindset and a positive manner. So just to finish up here, Shane, where or what's the best way for people to get in touch with yourself or Wilson Insurance Brokers?
Yeah. Look at my email address is shane.wilson@wilsoninsurance.co.uk. Office number 028-677-23366. Or anyone, just guys, drop a message to Stephen, or contact me directly. But Stephen, thanks for having me. On the other side, from Stephen's business, he's an ideal client to be working with. He's very focused on his business. He's a very experienced individual that can add value to business as well. And, I think, what Stephen has done on your ability and in terms of what he's trying to do, to think outside TS TCTS Group. You know, I think, Stephen, well done. And to you yourself, I think you're an example of people as to what people should be doing in business. But also, you know, it's not about business. It's the mindset that comes with business, the challenges that comes with business, and putting people in the right frame of mind. And if everyone was in the right frame of mind, it would be a great world. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen, Stephen. But that's what we are.
Absolutely. Listen, thank you very much, Shane. As we say, folks, listen, thanks for coming on board and listening to us here at Your Ability. And Your Ability is exactly for that. It's for anything that anybody wants to talk about or bring up. And we have different subjects and different topics. And in my particular field, the likes of Shane and that information is going back. And all of you guys, right, that have to listen to me bang on all the time, please just sit back for a minute, listen to Shane from Wilson Insurance Brokers. It's a completely independent point of view, but it's a professional point of view. So it's not as if that we've set everything up here just to be giving them particular bits of information out. Anyway, Shane, thank you very much, and we'll have you on again. Okay?
Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you. Speak to you soon.
Bye. Bye.